Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 13th Annual Patient-Reported Outcome Consortium Workshop, being held virtually for the second time. We are delighted that over 500 people registered for the workshop overall, and we have close to 200 people at this time, and people are trickling in, so we know there'll be more coming throughout the day. We're happy to see so many familiar names and also some new names, and we truly miss being in person together in the ballroom in Silver Spring. We thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. We have put together a great program for this virtual workshop, highlighting cutting-edge topics and research in the clinical outcomes assessment field. As a reminder, the welcome email message includes the welcome letter, the workshop agenda, workshop presenter and panelist information, along with links to the posters and to the feedback form. We really do appreciate any feedback that you wish to provide, so please do use the feedback forms online. My name is Sonya Eremenco, and I'm Executive Director of the PRO Consortium. I'm honored to provide the PRO Consortium update to start off our workshop. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. All attendee lines will be muted during the workshop. We will be recording each workshop session. These recordings will be available on the c-path website on the PRO Consortium webpage, along with the slides by the end of May. Feel free to share them with colleagues who are unable to join us over the next 2 days. In case of any technical issues, please message the host using the chat feature. We want to hear from you during our workshop sessions. So instead of sending in written questions, we will have the opportunity to ask questions verbally for the sessions that include a question and answer portion. Our intent is to recreate the interaction that we value in our in-person workshop and to enable dialogue between the audience and panelists. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. The moderator will call on those who are in the queue, and the host will unmute you to ask your question. We will do our best to get to as many of your questions as possible during the time available during each session. I'm letting you know early, and each session moderator will remind you how to ask questions during the session. c-path is a public-private partnership, which receives funding from the US FDA, as well as non-governmental sources, as shown on this slide. The contents presented today and tomorrow are views of each speaker and do not represent endorsement by FDA, HHS, or the US government. In case this is the first time that you are hearing about the Critical Path Institute and the PRO Consortium, I'd like to provide you with some background about who we are and what we do. c-path is an independent nonprofit organization which aims to accelerate medical product development through creating standards and drug development tools that aid in the scientific evaluation of the efficacy and safety of new therapies. c-path consists of over 25 consortia and other collaborative efforts, which include stakeholders such as regulatory, industry, academia, patient organizations, and technology experts. In recent years, c-path created an organizational structure based on our core competencies and key therapeutic areas. The Clinical Outcome Assessment, or COA program, is part of this structure and oversees 3 of c-path's consortia, including the PRO Consortium, led by me, the Electronic COA Consortium, led by Scotty Kern, and the recently launched Rare Disease COA Consortium, led by Lindsay Murray. My update today will focus on the PRO Consortium, and Scotty Kern will provide an update on the ECOA Consortium at the start of tomorrow's workshop sessions. The PRO Consortium was formed in late 2008 in cooperation with FDA's CDER and the pharmaceutical industry. It includes 26 member firms, all of which are pharmaceutical companies. Other participants in our efforts include representatives of government agencies, clinical consultants, patients, academic researchers, and CROs who partner with us in the development of PRO measures and other COAs. Our 26 member firms are shown here. We greatly appreciate their support and continued commitment to the mission and goals of the PRO Consortium. PRO Consortium members are pharmaceutical firms who work pre-competitively in collaboration with c-path, FDA, and other government agencies, patient organizations, toward the qualification of publicly available COAs for use in clinical trials where COA-based endpoints are used to support product labeling claims. And our goals are to enable pre-competitive collaboration with FDA input, sharing the costs of developing new endpoint measures or modifying existing measures in order to obtain FDA qualification of COAs that will ultimately facilitate FDA's review of medical products by standardizing COAs used as endpoint measures for specific concepts of interest and contexts of use. By working together pre-competitively, we also aim to avoid development of multiple endpoint measures for the same purpose, which has created confusion in the COA field in the past. The PARO Consortium governance consists of a coordinating committee, subcommittees, and working groups convened by the coordinating committee. The goal of these therapeutic area working groups is to generate or compile the evidence to enable new or existing COAs to be qualified by FDA for use in treatment trials to evaluate clinical benefit. There are 9 active working groups with 15 COAs in the COA qualification program, including 12 PRO measures, 1 observer-reported outcome measure, 1 performance outcome measure, and 1 activity monitor-based outcome measure. 4 working groups have completed their initial goal, which includes qualification by FDA of 2 asthma diaries and symptom measures for non-small cell lung cancer and depression for use in drug development. The consensus-defined MF-SAF version 4 has been endorsed by FDA, although it was not formally qualified. It is listed in the COA compendium, and there's a link shown here. These measures are actively being licensed for use in clinical trials. More details about these measures including their item content and available translations, as well as information about how to license them, can be found at the c-path.eu website. Our most recent qualification, the most recent c-path measure qualified by FDA COA program was the Diary for Irritable Bowel Syndrome Symptoms, Constipation, or the DIBS-C. It was qualified on December 18, 2020. Information is available on FDA's qualified COAs website shown here. Licensing information on this measure will be added to the c-path.eu website in the coming months, and preparation of a manuscript for publication is in progress. The IBS working group has 2 more measures in the qualification program, which I will touch on later, so its work continues. Now I would like to provide brief updates on the activities within the 9 working groups since April 2021, the time of last year's workshop. CHF working group, chronic heart failure, is working towards the qualification of an activity monitor-based endpoint measure of physical activity and 2 PRO measures, which were developed by Amgen, one of our member firms. These 2 measures are the Chronic Heart Failure Symptom Scale, or CHF-SS, and the Chronic Heart Failure Impact Scale, CHF-IS. Since April 2021, work on the qualification plan for the CHF-SS is in progress, with target submission Q2 of 2022. And qualification plan for the IS is also in progress, with target submission for Q3 2022. And an advisory panel was convened in December, 2 advisory panel meetings in December 2021 and March 2022, with the goal of alignment on existing or proposed novel activity monitor. Based endpoint metrics that best reflect and capture the meaningful aspects of physical activity identified by persons with CHF. And the qualification plan target submission is Q4 2022. And I want to mention something else about the CHF working group, because it's really been a great work in progress. We'll be sharing some additional information about the work of the digital technology tools in our session tomorrow. So please keep an eye out for that session. So for the cognition working group, it is working toward qualification of the virtual reality functional capacity assessment tool, the VRF-CAT. And since April 2021, after receiving support from FDA's Office of Neuroscience and Division of Clinical Outcome Assessment, the working group formally agreed in May 2021 to move forward with the qualification of the VRF-CAT rather than the EPSO-3D, which was a measure that had previously been intended for qualification. With the accelerated movement toward technology-enabled remote assessments, the switch to the VRF-CAT was scientifically sound and sensible, since it is a touchscreen computer-based assessment rather than requiring task completion using physical props, which is the case with the up to 3D. And you know, this decision was heavily influenced by the circumstances surrounding the pandemic and the need to do remote assessments, and the realization that up to 3D was not going to be ideal for that kind of setting. The next step will be to conduct qualitative research with biomarker confirmed participants with stage 2 or stage 3 Alzheimer's disease to evaluate the content validity of the VRFCAT in people with this condition. The Depression Working Group 2.0 is working toward qualification of the symptoms of major depressive disorder diary, or SMDD, and the symptoms of major depressive disorder momentary assessment, SMDD-MA. Since April 2021, we've been working on developing a study protocol that combines the two measures into one study design. And we met with FDA in July of 2021 to discuss this combined study. FDA agreed it was appropriate to use both measures in one combined study and provided important considerations related to the study design and proposed analyses. The combined study protocol will be incorporated into the qualification plan for each measure, along with measure-specific statistical analysis plans. The target submission for the SMDD qualification plan is Q2 of 2022, and for the SMDD-MA, it is Q3 of 2022. So the Functional Dyspepsia Working Group is working toward qualification of the Functional Dyspepsia Symptom Diary, or FDSD. And since we had submitted the qualification plan in 2020, it was deemed reviewable by FDA in June of 2021, and we are awaiting the review determination from FDA, which is expected in Q2 of 2022. The IBS Working Group is working toward qualification of the Diary for Irritable Bowel Syndrome symptoms, diarrhea, and the Diary for Irritable Bowel Syndrome symptoms next. And as I mentioned earlier, these are the two other additional measures that are still in the process. And the current focus is on the DIBS-D. The working group submitted a briefing package to FDA on urgency as a potential endpoint concept in IBS-D. The teleconference was held with FDA in December 2021 to discuss FDA's feedback on the package, and the working group is now moving forward with developing the qualification plan for the DIBS-D with target submission of Q3 2022. The Multiple Sclerosis Working Group is working towards qualification of two measures: the PROMIS short form version 1.0 fatigue for multiple sclerosis 8A, and the PROMIS Neuro-QoL physical function measure for multiple sclerosis 15A. Since April 2021, the working group submitted revised qualification plan for the PROMIS fatigue 8A, which was deemed reviewable and is currently under review as of March 8, 2022. And we completed and submitted the qualification plan for the PROMIS Neuro-QoL physical function MS-15A, and it is currently undergoing reviewability assessment. And I just want to say, I do see some questions coming into the chat, and I will try to get to them after I complete the presentation. Thank you. For the Pediatric Asthma Working Group is working toward qualification of the Pediatric Asthma Diary Observer, or PAD-O, and the Pediatric Asthma Diary Child, or PAD-C. And these were initially developed by Merck and then contributed to the working group to move forward for qualification. And since April 2021, the working group completed the cognitive interview study with both measures using a web-based video interview approach with Microsoft Teams, and completed and submitted the initial briefing package to FDA on March 31st, 2022. And I just want to mention that this working group overcame tremendous challenges during the early days of COVID-19, and was able to complete the study using this virtual platform instead of face-to-face interviews between October 2020 and July 2021. And as all of us know, it was not easy to do anything during those days, but we really credit the hard work of this team to move everything forward and keep the study on track. And after IBP, the next milestone will be the submission of a qualification plan by the end of 2022. For the Rheumatoid Arthritis Working Group, it is working toward qualification of the PROMIS Fatigue Short Form 10A, and the full qualification package is being finalized for submission to FDA by Q2 of 2022. The Small Cell Lung Cancer Working Group is aimed at leveraging the work of the Non-Small Cell Working Group and the members' individual efforts to qualify a small cell lung cancer core symptom measure. And since April 2021, a qualitative research study is in progress to evaluate the non-small cell lung cancer symptom assessment questionnaire in persons with small cell lung cancer. This qualitative study has encountered major challenges due to the ongoing pandemic throughout the fall and winter, when recruitment was intended to begin, and is pursuing both site-based participant recruitment as well as patient panel-based recruitment to identify eligible candidates for the study. The first participant enrolled in March 2022, and the first interview was conducted in early April 2022. I provided very brief highlights of the working group accomplishments over the past year. Our working group posters are available on the PARO Consortium website. They've been posted already and provide greater details on the progress each working group has made. So please do take a look at those. And as I touched on earlier, we want to recognize the Rare Disease COA Consortium launched in January of 2022. As we announced last year, c-path, along with NORD, received an FDA grant to establish this consortium, and the grant was extended through August of 2022. The first step was to establish the Rare Disease Subcommittee within the PARO Consortium to serve as an incubator for the new consortium from 2019 to 2021. And the consortium's goal is to address critical unmet measurement needs for assessing clinical benefit in rare disease drug development. The initial focus is on identification and evaluation of existing publicly available COAs with the potential to be used across rare diseases. Please see the poster, the link here, for a complete update. Finally, we wanted to highlight four publications that were published in the last year, which represent tremendous accomplishments on the part of both working groups and other efforts within the PRO Consortium. We have two publications for the non-small cell lung cancer symptom assessment questionnaire. The first, by Bushnell and colleagues, presents the psychometric performance of the measure based on the quantitative pilot study data. And the fourth listed here by Williams and colleagues, which was published very recently, presents longitudinal measurement properties and meaningful change thresholds from a phase 3 study. Both provide key sources of evidence to support the non-small cell lung cancer symptom assessment questionnaire. I also want to mention that later today, Josephine Norquist will be presenting on the phase 3 study results and lessons learned as part of the session on meaningful change. The other two publications were also eagerly awaited. Gator and colleagues published the measurement properties of the ADSD and the ANSD as measures for adults and adolescents with asthma. And that was the work of the asthma working group. And finally, Gordon and colleagues published best practice recommendations on user acceptance testing, which is an important deliverable from our ECOA Getting Better Together initiative. All of these publications are open access and available at the links shown here. If you have any questions about the PRO Consortium update, please feel free to reach out to me at the email listed here, or I will look at the messages and respond in the chat if I can. Before I turn the presentation over to FDA to provide their update, as a reminder, the posters from the working groups, the ECOA Consortium and the Rare Disease COA Consortium are available on the PRO Consortium's webpage, which is at c-path's website, c-path.org/PROC. So we will pause for a moment to allow the host to bring up the next presentation.